Tahiyatu and a very good evening. These are our top stories for tonight. The long-awaited creche, Ofanga Tolotolopulu, finally opened its doors this morning with the honour gifted to Honourable Billy Talangi, Minister for Social Services. The Minister thanked the young children, especially for braving the rain, to join in the official opening.
Young children from the early childhood education joined local dignitaries this morning to be the first to enter the new Ofanga Tolotolopulu. Minister Billy Talangi said that this building is called the Ofanga Tolotolopulu, which means a place to rear or raise our young ones. The Director General for the Ministry of Social Services welcomed everyone to the opening. Mrs. Gayleen Tasmania acknowledged the members of Cabinet and senior government officials and the New Zealand High Commissioner for their support of the event today. She thanked the contractors and the builders and also the various government agencies for their collaborative efforts to complete the building. Mrs. Tasmania says that it is not fully furnished right now, but there is sufficient resources there to open the creche. In his speech, the Minister apologised that this opening had been a long time coming, and he acknowledged the struggles of parents looking for someone to care for their young children so they can return to work. BCN had reported last month that the delays to the opening of the creche was due to more upgrading work which needed to be completed. The two buildings were relocated from the former Niue Primary School 3 years ago and underwent a series of refurbishment which included additional features befitting a structure safe for the children. 25 children are registered at the new Ofanga Tolotolopulu with 7 carers employed at the centre under the management of Mrs. Mokavaha. The creche caters for children aged 12 months to 4 years old. This is Esther Pavihi for BCN News.
The Ridge to Reef project is holding talks with the communities of Hakupu and Liku to determine the way forward for the development of the Huvalu Forest Conservation Area by way of formalising the area in addition to creating a management plan for the area. According to Dr. Josie Tamate, this conservation of Huvalu Forest is not a new concept. About 20 years ago, the Huvalu Conservation Area was established, but this time around, they want to formalise this and ensure sustainability.
What we don't have at the moment is that some formal arrangement or some arrangement that actually recognises, okay, these are areas that we will have for agricultural use. These areas is recognised and be formalised as tapu area that nobody should go in there. There's reference, but it's not documented in a way. This is a conservation area. These are zones. There was reference to zones, but they're not formalised in it. So the idea now is to make it, finalise it and have a management plan that can be implemented.
Talks with the two key communities of Hakupu and Liku have started so the people from these villages can have their say on what they want for their conservation area and ways to ensure this is done properly. Dr. Tamate acknowledges capturing the interests of all users in the plan, but also notes the increased use of the land and loss of biodiversity, so also begs the questions, what vision do we have long-term for generations and our environment?
Where do we see ourselves in 7 or 10 years' time? What happens if we continue the same practice that we're doing now? What will be our environment? What will be that area look like in 17 years' time? Maybe there's nothing, they're still the same. Maybe things that will disappear, we don't know. But it's best to try and do something now rather than later.
On the much discussed topic of pigeon and bat hunting, Dr. Tamate maintains their position for the long-term sustainable use of the resources, noting while the number of pigeon and bat numbers have increased following the moratorium imposed following Cyclone Heta, despite their growth in numbers, they don't reflect their rich past. She hopes generations can enjoy the resource into the future and not just have to read about what was once a traditional practice.
Legislation says 2 months of the year it's open up for hunting. From our perspective, we want to make sure that the species continue to be there, that the numbers continue to increase. And that was, from after they had we saw a decline in the number of unga and baka and lupe. While we've seen a slight increase, it's not at the level they used to be. So the more we do to, facilitate that, to keep the numbers or even to see an increase, the better it is for for generation to come. We don't want to be talking about it anymore. Reading, you can only know about it by reading or talking about it. We owe to our generation coming up that they can see this.
Ridge to Reef has commissioned the expertise of Brent Tigler, ecologist and protected area specialist, alongside Chief Technical Advisor to the project, Dave Butler, on the preparatory phase of the conservation project. Dr. Tamati says that she is hopeful that community dialogue, working with the experts' advice, they will be able to present a management plan for the Huvalu Forest Conservation Area, combining important primary forested areas of both Liku and Hakupu by the end of the year. A two-day farmer workshop was hosted by the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, also known as DAF, facilitated by Bruce Griffin from Volunteer Services Abroad, who is here on island for 10 days to help give tips and guidance to growers on plant propagation, grafting, aerial layering and growing from cuttings. Around 20 participants, including Niue High School students, attended yesterday's workshop, with all participants gaining first-hand tips in cutting and grafting techniques. Discussions also centered on soil management with focus on soil fertility. Griffin's visit is a follow-up as part of the Fruit Tree Development Project, which commenced 2 years ago, where similar workshops were also held during the inception stage, as well as delivering further assistance to DAF and the Voipapahi farm. The workshops have provided a great opportunity to learn more about sustaining fruit trees long-term. Griffin welcomed the attendance of students to the workshop on the first morning, highlighting the increased interest of kids when they see fruits around the house, hinting to those in the room. He spoke of the interest of tourists also in exotic fruits, and while we take for granted the pawpaws to exemplify, he said this was quite expensive overseas and a delicacy for tourists, highlighting encouraging the growth of such fruits. Noting the increase of non-communicable diseases, or NCDs, also in the Pacific, and the great benefits of fruits to Niueans and their health, he highly encouraged sustaining their growth not only for growers, but for all households. Dr. Tuyuraku Ita, a lecturer for the Graduate Diploma in Pacific Studies, is here for another week to oversee the final major projects undertaken by the 7 students enrolled this semester. Being an online 14-week course conducted via Moodle, Dr. Rakuita explained that the primary challenge online was that of interpretation due to poor telecommunications, either from weather or poor network, the worst off country being Solomon Islands. Epistemology, which is a theme covered this semester, he noted, deals with comprehensive abstract, and accurate interpretation is paramount to helping the students succeed. His visit is to ensure the themes thus have been translated to help students succeed in their major projects.
It's multidisciplinary. It examines the impact of social changes on every aspect of Pacific life. So we talk about, the economy, the political economy of the South Pacific. In terms of that, that's more an economic kind of thing. We talk about culture, which is an anthropological, sociological approach to understanding social reality. And we talk about, as long as changes are affecting Pacific people, we talk about that. We talk about how governments could judiciously approach and weigh traditional disputes. We have that, in most of the countries in the region, where traditional disputes in terms of customary titles, land boundaries and all that are coming up. Right now, I'm part of a team at the University of the South Pacific that's developing a template that could be used by, first of all, the government of Fiji to try and adjudicate on, land disputes and title disputes in Fiji more effectively. And then from there, because the leader of the team is a professor who's Samoan, and then we're going to try and see if that template can be used right throughout the Pacific. So those are the kind of new interesting things that we are doing in Pacific Studies.
The July intake for the course is now open for enrollment. It's that time of year again when the outstanding work of the local private sector is being recognized. The Niue Chamber of Commerce has announced that entries are now open for the 2019 Niue Business Awards.
The 2019 Niue Business Awards is a biannual event recognizing the outstanding work and the huge commitment of the local private sector and their contribution to the economic development of the country. The Chamber of Commerce has encouraged that if you are an established or new business, tell your story with supporting photographs, brochures, or menus, anything that promotes the great work done by your business worthy of an award. For the Niue Business Awards 2019 will close at 3 p.m. on Friday the 21st of June. And the winners will be announced at the 2019 Niue Business Awards Black and White Gala Dinner on Saturday, the 27th of July, at the Scenic Matavai Resort. This is Esther Pavi for BCN News.
That ends our news tonight. Hope you have a lovely weekend and look forward to seeing you next week. Nona wha, moi moruina.